Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Q&A with Chug. Each week, we cover pressing topics that matter to you and your business. I'm Arianna Gonzalez from Chug, attorneys and CPAs tuning in from our San Diego office. Please join me in welcoming attorney Mengxin from our Herndon, Virginia office. Hi there, Mengxin, and welcome. Thank you for being here. So for today's topic, we will be diving into everything you need to know about entity conversions. Just a quick disclaimer before we begin, this conversation is for informational purposes only. It does not create an attorney-client relationship. So if you have questions, please comment them below or email us anytime at info@chug.com. Now let's get right into it. So Esther, can you tell me what is an entity conversion?
Thank you, Arianna, for having me here. For conversion, which means that it's a legal process to change the different business entity from one to another. So, for example, if I have a corporation, if I change my current business type as a corporation to a limited liability company or vice versa, or a partnership to a corporation, this is what we call a conversion. So you know that we have all different type of business. It can be corporation, limited liability company, which we call LLC, like partnership, etc., etc. So these are all different type of business entity. When you want to change from one to another, by filing some document to the state, this is what we call conversion. But note, there will be no new entity, created. Everything gonna remain the same. Your liability assets will be the same. So that's what we call conversion without dissolution.
Got it. Thanks for that explanation. So why would a business want to convert its entity type?
The business need. So it also can be long-term reason and short-term reason. So I think the easiest way is to give you an example. So for example, if I have an LLC, the reason why I want to change from LLC to a corporation, probably based on the employee that I want, hire. To attract the more employee, corporation will be easy for me because I can issue more stocks. I can issue stocks to employee to maintain them, to work with me as incentives. So this is the reason why people want to convert for the hiring, talents. And of course, sometimes it's also because the taxation benefits. Sometimes the taxation advantage will only applicable to the corporation instead of LLC. And of course, there will be some long-term reasons. So for example, if I'm really confident about my business, I do believe there will be a lot of investments in the future. So to attract more VC and have more funds with me, probably a corporation will be a better choice for me. Because I can issue the stocks, and normally, the investor will give more credits to a corporation compared to a LLC. And I think the one of the last reason is because the corporation is, exists longer than LLC, and without any specific limitations. The reason because it's perpetual exist, but for LLC, if it's owned by a single member without any specification in the governing documents, under the statutes, it can be dissolved when that sole owner passes away. So that is the reason the corporation has more steady compared to a LLC if LLC does not have any specification for that. But of course, let's say vice versa, people thinking, why I want to change from a corporation to LLC, it also depends on the business need. So for example, for LLC, it gives more flexibility for the owner to manage and operate. If there's only two members in the corporation and then they want to make it more flexibility, LLC is a better choice because LLC can have only two members and making the decision very easily. And compared to corporation, LLC has fewer regulation and filing requirements compared to the corporation. And to be honest, I think I observe a lot of state has more privacy space for LLC instead of corporation, because sometimes corporation requires more public filing to the state. And the one most reason, and also people want to know, is about the taxation. As we know, the LLC is pass-through entities, but for corporation, it's double taxation. So that's all the general reasons people why they want to change from corporation to LLC if that's their what they want.
Wow, so that's great to know that if, you started a business with a certain type of entity and you found better benefits in a different type, that we have the ability to convert it. That's wonderful to know. So are there any potential drawbacks of converting an entity type? Anything that we need to be aware of?
Sure. Yeah, I think yes, it is. The reason because if you want to file conversion, which means that you want to make difference, right? You want to make business change. So of course the law gonna change because previously, if you are buying by Limited Liability Company Act, then you want to convert to a corporation. Therefore, there will be more laws applicable to corporation to applicable to you. So this is more regulation and filing requirements, as I mentioned previously. But of course, it can be taxation difference compared to different entities. And also it can be, the regulations like filing, etc., like that. So this is all I think the drawback. And of course, the conversion per se, it requires you to file some documents to the state, and different state will have different state rules and different state laws. So that's what you need to take time to do the research and to make sure that you are in compliance and to make every step valid.
Wow, so it sounds like we really need to pay attention if we do want to, convert our entity, and make sure we're speaking with our attorney to make sure we do have all of our bases covered, and we are going to do a successful conversion. So regarding interstate entity relocations, why would a business, for example, want to relocate its entity to another state? Are there any benefits to this? Why do people do this?
Thank you, Arianna. It's a really good question. So as we just mentioned previously, we are talking about conversion, right? Which is changing from one business entity to another. But now you are asking me about relocation. So relocation means that change different states. So for example, if I incorporate my corporation in Virginia, but now I want to move it out of Virginia to another state, this is what we call relocation. So why do people want to relocate? I think it is all they have all different reasons. But what I can think of is, for example, it can be really based on the business nature. So for example, like IT company, they want to do more business, have more customer who are around like states who is famous for doing IT stuff, like California, Texas, government contract around the Washington, D.C. So these are all the reasons want people to relocate from different states. And also because of personal reason, for example, the owner moved their home from one state to another. So there's no reason no longer to be in a state where you don't have any connection with. So this is also the reason, the taxation reason, some states give more benefits in terms of the taxation than the others. So this is all the taxation reasons, resources, talents, filing. So these are all different reasons why people want to relocate to meet their, the best need for that.
Those sound like great reasons, and it is something to keep in mind too when you're forming a new entity, to look at those different tax laws and the business climate of where you want to set up that entity to make sure that it's aligned with what you're looking for your business. So Esther, can you share with us what domestication and the context of entity relocation is?
Domestication is the process, to change one corporation from one state to another. So for example, previously, as I mentioned, if I incorporate a corporation in Virginia, so then the Virginia is the domestic state for my corporation because I incorporate there by filing a certificate of incorporation. But because my relocation, I want to move out of Virginia and I want to do business specifically located in, let's say, Texas. So therefore, by domesticating in Texas, Virginia is no longer my domestic state, but instead it becomes a foreign state. to my business entity. So what I need to do is I do need to file a certificate of domestication in Texas, which is the state that I want to relocate to. So this is the whole process, what we call domesticate, in the state where you want, relocate by end up with that.
Great, thank you for sharing that with us. So regarding, we've talked about, the pros and cons and why people want to convert their entity. So regarding the procedure for entity conversion and relocation, can you share with us what are the typical steps involved in converting an entity type? What does that look like?
Let's start with the conversion as you asked. So for conversion, as we repeatedly mentioned, it is about the conversion from business type of entity to the other. So of course, first you will need to check the state law where you incorporate and to make sure that it is allowed, because some state there will be no such laws allows you to do that. So in that case, you will need to dissolve the entity and then start a new one, which is a totally different story. So in that case, first of all, you will need to check the state to make sure that this is state law, you are in compliance with the state law. And the second, you go back to check your governing documents. So for example, if you are a corporation, then you need to check your bylaws. And if you are LLC, you will need to check your operating agreement to make sure what is the step is to approve such conversion, because it is gonna be approved by the shareholders or the members if it is a LLC. So of course, after that, you will need to have some internal documents such as resolutions or member consent. Of course, this gonna take some time, but you can have some professional, experts to help you with that. So after you prepare the internal documents, also the, plan and conversion plan, and then you, of course, you need to file some document to the state under the state law. So it can be a certificate of conversion, certificate of formation. It really depends on what the state calls. So after that, you also will need to do some admin work, notify all your customers, notify the parties who sign agreements, which requires the notification, etc., etc. So this is all what we need to do and keep in mind. So to avoid these hassle, you always can have someone who knows what they are doing to help.
That's great information. I appreciate you giving us all of those details about entity conversion. So regarding relocation, can you share with us what are the typical steps involved in relocating an entity to another state?
Relocating actually is very similar to conversion, but of course the filing document is going to be different. So of course, as I just mentioned, checking the governing documents, checking the state law, because now your action is related to two different states, right? Because it's going to be domesticate in another state and then move out of from one state. So you will need to check both state law to make sure both state allows such domestication by filing a simple paper. So this is the one thing you need to check, and governing document, how to get approval, approval by the board, approval by the shareholder, approved by member. These are all the governing documents. And then each state has different state law, so you probably need to file a certificate of domestication in the state where you want to convert into, and also file a confirmation paper as well to the state that you want to convert out of. So this is the state law that you have to be compliant with within two states. And of course, you need to inform the different parties who sign agreement with you, notify the address change, the notification clauses you also need to focus on, because in most of the agreements there will be a clause which we call notification. So how to make a valid notification is to send such documents by sending the right person at the right address specified in the agreement. So since you're relocating, so probably the address is going to be changed. In that case, that you also need to amend that clause as well. So these are all the admin and operation step that you will need to do to keep in mind after the relocation.
Wow, so it sounds like quite a bit of documents might be needed for this process. So if you are watching this and have questions about this process, please reach out to us anytime at info@juke.com and we'd be happy to help you out with this. So Esther, before we get into legal and financial implications of entity conversion and relocation, are there any last words on entity relocation and conversion that we should know?
Sure, thank you, Arianna. It's very practical tips. So basically, you definitely need to make sure that every step you are following, the internal documents, you have every internal document to record such approval and conversion or relocation. And of course, the taxation gonna be changed. So because as for the conversion, it will be different, type of entity. So now you are doing corporation instead of LLC, then therefore the different tax filing will be different. So therefore, it is better for you to have a professional to help you to make sure that before you take any action, you understand what you are really going through. And of course, there will be different new laws, coming into the picture. So let's take New Jersey as an example. Only actually in later 2023, they allows people to convert their entity differently, vice versa, from like corporation to LLC or LLC to corporation, or like relocate. So for example, like from Virginia to New Jersey or vice versa. So this is the new law updates from time to time that which you will need to pay attention to. Because of this new law, the people now can do it easier by just filing a simple paper to New Jersey, instead of the solution. So therefore, you will need to check the state law specifically, because a lot of state will say, hey, we allow this, but we will need to make sure the other state also has the law to allow the conversion. So these are the things that you will need to make sure everything is accurate before you take the action.
That's great to know that New Jersey has taken this action to make it easier to convert your entity. So, thank you for that update. I appreciate that. Regarding contracts and legal agreements with this, how does converting an entity type impact contracts and legal agreements? Can you share that with us?
Sure, thank you. So as we know, the contract law are very similar. It doesn't matter whether it's a LLC as the as the party or a corporation. But however, they do have some clauses in the contracts, maybe needs advance notifications, or there will be different reason why people need a notification under the contract law. So, but normally, if you have some liability to somebody, it's not gonna change. Your liability gonna remain the same. You're not gonna, get rid of it because of the conversion or relocation. But of course, you will need to be specifically make sure that your creditor also has on the same page with you. Because sometimes if the change of the structure, different type of entity, it may impact the taxation or the interest rate. So therefore, there will be difference between the loan and the creditor's perspective. People will need to pay attention to.
Wow, that's really great to know and keep in mind for everyone watching this. So can entity conversion affect existing debts or financial obligations?
Yeah, it's really a good question because people kind of feel reluctant to do so. So, as I said, as to liability, you're not gonna get rid of it, right? Because as we say that, I neither relocation or conversion will help you to get rid of anything. You will have the same legal identity with the same assets, liability, etc. But as I say, from creditor perspective, it might be different to loan to a corporation compared to a LLC. It may change the interest rate. So these are all the things that you will need to pay attention, specifically review your agreement, your loan agreement and other agreement requires advance notification or amendments. So these are all the things that people need to pay attention to.
Wonderful. That's great to know. I appreciate you sharing that with us. So, Esther, I know you help a lot of businesses with strategy for what entity they should have or if they should convert their current entity type. So what strategic considerations should a business evaluate before deciding on entity conversion? Do you have any advice?
Thank you so much. Sure. I think there are different type of reason. As I mentioned at the very beginning, it really depends on the short term and purpose, a long term purpose, and what really see your entity in the future, right? And where your business standing now. These are all the things that you need to consider before taking any action. And of course, you will need to check what is your partner things. So for example, if you are LLC, you have multiple members as the owners, what they think about it and whether people are on the same page when they want to convert to a corporation. Some people want to be more conservative and feel like, the business right now is good. We just should remain, maintain as the same. But some people will be more aggressive and ambitious to their business. So these are all the things partner need to think about it. What you see your business in the future. So this is also about your marketing, the customer, employee, etc., etc. So these are all the things you need to think about before you take the action.
Those are all really important points and great advice. So, how should businesses plan for the tax implications of converting their entity type? Normally, depending on where they're trying to convert their entity from, there could be tax implications. So, how can they be aware of this? How can businesses plan for this?
Sure. Yeah. So as I mentioned, the law gonna be different, right? And definitely there will be some change and filing requirements upon conversion. So people are recommended to have a tax professionals to help them to understand the long-term tax filing requirements. It can have different, like, capital gains, deductible is different. So these are all the things that people will need to think about it by consulting professionals regarding the taxation.
That's great advice, Esther. And I should mention, in addition to being a full service legal firm, we are also a full service accounting firm. So if any of you need assistance, we do have a huge belt of CPAs here. So please reach out anytime. You can reach us at info@chug.com and we'd love to help you out with your accounting help as well. So Esther, does the industry matter when you're thinking of converting an entity? Are there any industry specific considerations when you're thinking of converting your entity type?
Oh, thank you so much. It's a wonderful, wonderful question because I think industry is one of the biggest reason people want to make the conversion or relocation. Because it really depends on the what business you're doing, right? So for example, normally for a real estate investment like renting property, I think LLC is the people normally going with. So of course, this is the entity the people commonly file for. And compared to like, let us say IT company, let us say, like technology company. So these are all the company probably in the future, they want to attract the more investor coming to the picture and have more fundings. In that case, probably people will think about convert to a corporation. So of course you are right. For the industry, it's very important for people to consider as a factor. And also for the state will be different. So let us see for example, I think in, like I said, Washington D.C. that there are a lot of government contracts like IT. For California, as we all know, it's IT companies heaven, right? So these are all the things related to supplier and customers and the whole environment. So that is the thing that people need to discuss and think about it. So this is what I can think of about the specific industry.
That's great advice for any industry who's considering converting their entity type or even relocating. So we are running close on time here. So one more question for you on this topic. How does entity conversion impact international businesses?
Thank you so much. Yeah, for international business, as I said, for international business, then which gonna impact by both different laws from different countries. So of course the country has their different laws compared to LLC or corporation. So of course in that case the people will need to change the mind and to make sure that they're in compliance with the different laws under the both countries or multiple countries. So that is one thing that people need to think about it. And for the international, and people also will need to have a broad mind to think about the investor in different countries, which they prefer, what type of business they want to deal with. So this is the conversion impact, international business. And of course, the law takes a lot of say here.
Wow, that really gives us a lot to think about on this topic. So many great questions answered. Thank you so much for your time, Esther. That is all we have time for today. So this does bring us to the end of our conversation. Special thank you to Esther for joining us today, and thank you everyone else for tuning in. To stay up to date, please subscribe and follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. If this conversation was helpful, please make sure to give it a like. And if you have any questions or suggestions, please send us an email anytime at info@chug.com. We would love to help you out. And make sure to join us back here next week for more pressing topics that truly matter to you and your business. Until next time, stay safe and take care. Thank you so much, Esther. Thank you, everyone.